Hi you guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Allie Wilkins. So today we're going to talk about one way that you can start having much deeper spiritual experiences. So there's a couple things that I want to say before I talk about how you can attune yourself to this. So a lot of people will have very deep spiritual out of body sort of experiences for the first time when they're doing plant medicines. So if you're doing something like ayahuasca, or if you're doing mushrooms, or of course like acid, LSD, that sort of thing, you will have an experience that is actually, when done ceremonially, very, very deep and a incredible spiritual experience that for some people will allow you to open your perspective to see more things that way. It's sort of like once you see it for the first time, it's hard to not see life in that same way. This isn't a video saying that you should go do a bunch of psychedelics. However, that's the way that a lot of people open up to this sort of energy. So if you're doing something like mushrooms, for example, you could look at, for example, I have like this picture. I used to have this picture of a goddess on my background on my phone. And one time I was doing mushrooms, I was in a ceremony for myself, and I was looking at this picture on my phone, and the goddess in the picture was like moving all over the place. Like there was lines of energy moving from her. When I look at that picture sober, that sort of thing doesn't happen. Now, I also just want to caveat, you can use all of these substances in a casual way where you might not experience something like that on as deep of a level. However, mushrooms, that's sort of just the experience. So a lot of people will experience that, and then in their regular life, it's like, why am I not seeing things in this certain form? And the second thing that I want to talk about here is that we live such busy lives, and a lot of people are like, oh, what's my soul saying to me? But we are so busy, we're constantly doing stuff. Very few people spend any time just in silence by themselves. Very few people create intentional space for stillness. And actually, once you start doing that, it becomes a just regular part of yourself. Most people, that's going to be like, oh, I meditated for 10 minutes, now I'm off to my busy day. In order to be able to see signs in a deep way and be able to have these deep spiritual experiences without drugs, you have to be still. You have to move slowly. You have to open your perception. And I'll speak for myself. I have very wide perception. I see a lot of things that I don't think that other people necessarily see. But if I go into a state of being really busy, all of that I'm not noticing things on nearly as deep of a level. So number one, you have to attune yourself to stillness. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're just sitting here like, like that doesn't mean that you're just sitting in meditation all day. It means that you start to see beyond what is right in front of you. So I love using this example. And this actually just came up in an Akashic record reading, and I just loved it. So I want to share it here. So think about if just a regular old person goes into a forest and they look around the forest, and what do you think they see? They're like, oh, there's some trees, there's like dirt, there's some pine cones on the ground. And then if a shaman goes into the forest, what he would see or what she would see, and what the difference is between those. A shaman would be like, there's a crow up in the left, very top corner of this tree that I can't even see. I know that there's a black crow there. There's a bobcat over there. There's an earthworm that's about to crawl over your foot. There's this, they see so much more because they have attuned themselves to deep perception. So a lot of times we're like, I asked for a sign, where is it? And like 450 signs have tried to come to you, but you're not noticing them. You're not paying attention. You're too busy to actually see it. And busyness, I feel like this could be my sole purpose. Like helping people to stop being so freaking busy, because it's not, number one, it's a programmed way to keep us out of our power. And number two, it's not enjoyable. It doesn't bring us joy to be busy, right? We're running all over the place and exhausted, and we're not powerful from that space. When we're slow and still, we are in our deepest power. And it mostly, what I love about it so much is that it really allows you to see things on a much deeper level. So for example, this might sound insane to you. I can look at, okay, so basics. Plants have energy, right? Going back to that sort of psychedelic experience, if you've looked at plants when you've experienced ayahuasca, you will see the life force energy moving through a plant. It's like veins of energy moving. You will have such a different experience than if you're just like a muggle looking at, no judgment, looking at a plant. You see the life in it. And so basics 101, plants have energy. You can speak to plants. Plants can speak to you. You can interact with the essence, with the spirit of a plant. How do you think that we found out which plants cure certain things? Shamans did that. Shamans did that work, and then Westerners came in and stole it from the shamans. Anyways, that's how those sorts of things were found out, because plants have spirit. So if you look at a plant, you can start practicing this by yourself. Like, what's the connection with this plant? How are you feeling today? Or just like, hi plant. Like, start actually communicating with the plant. You might feel crazy, but there are studies, you guys have already heard this probably. There are studies that when you communicate with plants in certain ways, when you play certain sorts of music, they live longer, they're happier, they are, and by happier, I mean they look more vital, they are more lively, their leaves aren't falling off, right? They exude different behavior than if you're playing like depressing music or you're acting shitty around your plant all day. And it's so interesting. So I have this one plant called, you can see it in some of my older videos. It's called a prayer plant. It has other names too, but I forget. Anyways, at nighttime, its leaves lift upwards. And during the day, they go back down. It literally reaches towards the heavens at night. It's also, I call it my ancestor plant. So anyways, plants have life to them. This is a really powerful way, just one example of many, that you can start to attune to energy beyond what you can see. When you're able to do this, people sometimes will, let me go back. When you're able to do this, you'll be able to perceive energy without seeing evidence of it. So I do all these energy updates, right? And I do deep energetic work in my Akashic record reading. Sometimes people are like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just perceiving energy because I've trained myself to do that. Because I feel certain things around me, my perception is wide enough and it's growing, continuously growing. Imagine the perception of a shaman. Imagine the perception of someone who generations of their lineage have worked with the plants and have worked with the elemental parts of nature. And they've grown up with that sort of as common knowledge, right? Imagine the perception that's possible and then how we are seeing things. So if you want to deepen your spiritual experiences, the first thing that you need to do is slow down the mind. Allow yourself just space. Okay, here's a really amazing exercise you can do. I love doing this. I get a lot of my clients to do this, and it's really uncomfortable for everybody. Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes. You could start with 5 if this is really hard for you. Do nothing. Just set a timer and there's nothing for you to do. You're not going to tidy up your room. You're not going to do anything. You're just going to sit there and have nothing to do. You're probably going to get so uncomfortable. Like, this is so stupid. I should be doing this. Like, just start to observe. Oh, the doorknob is really shiny. Oh, there's marks on the window. Okay. Just start to observe around you. Oh, the people outside are being really noisy. Just start to observe. There's nothing for you to do. Attune yourself to space. Start getting comfortable with space. Because if you can't sit still, if you can't like get yourself out of busy mode, you won't be able to see or feel much. Your perception will be very limited. When you give yourself space is when that skill can grow, and we all have this skill. The feminine energy is the seer, is the oracle. seeing things far beyond physical 3D perception. We all have this within us. It's just a matter of how busy are you? And even if you're not busy, this is such a depressing thing that like we'll be watching a movie and still be on our phones. Like we can't even hold our attention on a movie. We'll still be on our phones, like scrolling Instagram, right? How can you start to practice being really basic step one. How can you start to be mindful of what it is that you're even doing? Step two, come into stillness more often, create more space for yourself. Do that alarm thing that I just said. I have ear ringing. Do that alarm thing that you just said. Start to, even with your alarm, another thing that you could do is set your plant in front of you and just stare at it for 5 minutes. Communicate with it. Speak. When I water my plants, I'm like, you look so beautiful. I'm watering you with lots of love. You look extra beautiful today. My plants love me. My plants are all doing so well because that's the energy I'm giving to them, right? But also, I work with the spirits of the plants. So this might be like a little much for you, but you're the one watching a video about how to deepen your spiritual experiences. So anyways, you have to slow down. You have to start creating space for you to pay attention. What if you were just told to if I was told to just sit here and look out the window for one day? Do you know how much more I would notice than I do if I'm just sitting here looking out the window for 5 minutes? I would start to notice so much more. And then in that practice, you also start to notice when something changes, right? So I'm doing this with energy all the time, just naturally as an empath and with my own gifts. I'm constantly absorbing energy so I can feel it that way. But it's also because I've done the work to create this deep perception. So when something shifts, I feel it, and a lot of times I can name it, and that's how I'm able to do the work in the Akashic Records or to do energy updates. And people are like, oh my God, how did you know? Because I've attuned myself to so much stillness and slowness that for most people, they would go crazy with the amount of stillness I have and slowness. And I'm not saying that to be like, I'm so great. I'm saying that to say, stretch yourself with what you're comfortable with. Stretch yourself in the amount of awareness you are able to hold. And a lot of times that's going to start with awareness of ourselves. But don't forget awareness of your external space. I love practicing with plants. They're like, God, we've been waiting for you to do this. Like, been waiting for you to talk to us. First, you just named us. And now, it's said that the pothos plant, the ivy, the leaves will start to wither a little, or they'll start to just like droop when there's negative energy present. And so I'll look at my ivy sometimes and it's like, what's going on with the energy in here? And I'll look at the ivy to see how the leaves are. There's so much that you can do with the spirit of plants, or I'll burn certain forms of sage if I want to have deeper prophetic dreams, or I want to call more abundance into my life, or I want to clear negative energy, or we already are doing this in some ways and we're not aware of it because we just buy certain things. So for example, when you drink ginger tea, are you consciously aware that you're working with the plant, with the root ginger? Because ginger, one of the healing modalities is to, support your upset stomach, or, that. Or are you aware that when you work with peppermint, it can help your headache? And you're drinking peppermint tea because of that, but you're not consciously thinking like, oh, I'm working with a plant spirit here. And you're not thanking the plant. Thank you to the spirit of the peppermint. Thank you to the spirit of this apple I'm eating because I'm eating life. Thank you. And so much of this is just a form of how we've grown up, and ceremonial traditions being wiped away. The lineages that worship the mother being killed off in huge numbers, or exiled, or having to go underground, being so afraid to even share their wisdom that we've lost most of this. But everything we're working with has a spirit if it was alive at one point. You could even just say everything has a spirit itself. So how can you start working with the spirit of different things with your water? and also the energy of things. So with your water, like I'm pouring, as I drink this water, I'm bringing purification energy into my body. When you're making your coffee, like, okay, I'm stirring in these certain things into my day today. As I drink this, I activate love and health and abundance. And you might be like, that's all bullshit. Well, number one, that doesn't seem like it's going to hurt anybody if I'm stirring love and abundance into my coffee, right? And everything is energy. Water is also affected by the words you're using. There's studies about that. So when we start to realize that, number one, everything is energetic, and number two, we can create a living relationship with almost anything, and definitely if it has life. So when you start to embed that into your life, this is why I call myself a priestess, and many of my friends and sisters do, because we're working with the ceremonial aspect of life. And this is something that really deepens your ability to see, that really deepens your ability to experience deep spiritual lessons, signs. And it's like, you know how I was mentioning before, so many signs come to us and we're like, I didn't see it. I've been asking for a year and no signs have come through. Well, also because you just, might have thought it was stupid. You might have been like, oh, that turtle coming up. What, it's just a turtle. It just lives there. Right? So paying attention to what's going on around you, but you do that by becoming slow and infusing ceremony into everything that you're doing. And thinking about it's mindfulness, right? Being present to what you're doing as you're cooking your food. Last night I had this like beautiful meal and I was like, thank you so much to the people who grew this food. Thank you for the carrots, for the sweet potatoes, for the rice, for the spinach. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for the heat that I needed to make this. Thank you for the olive oil and the people who created this olive oil. Thank you for the olive tree. Thank you for the electricity that I needed to be able to make this meal. And it's like, so much of our life isn't, in the American way or the Western way, isn't intentional like that. We don't even pay attention. It's just like, oh, I'm eating this food so fast because I have to go do this thing. It's like, oh my God. Like, we're missing the whole point. Anyways, I could talk about this stuff for like 500 hours, so I'm going to stop here. But when you attune to this sort of beingness with life, you're going to start seeing, I have like thousands of spiritual experiences every day. And it's also, there's this sort of, I don't know the word that I want to use for this, but it's like, you have to show up in a certain way to be gifted some of these experiences. If you're showing up like a dodo, you're not, the universe isn't going to, actually the universe always is giving us miracles, so I don't want to say that, but there are some things I feel that like, if you're not showing up in a certain way, you're just going to miss it because you're not attuned to that level of depth yet. Yeah. And you have to appreciate what you see. You have to, same with listening to your soul. You have to appreciate what your soul's guidance is giving you. If you're just like, yeah, whatever, you're not going to hear it anymore. You have to appreciate and honor it for the sacred wisdom that it has. So I'm really going to stop there. I hope that you enjoyed this. I talk about stuff like this all the time on this channel, also on my Instagram page and just in real life too. This is exactly how I am in real life. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you want more videos like this. Please share this with a friend if it was helpful. And as always, if you can like, comment this video so that more people can find it, I would really appreciate that. And it's something you can do so fast and easy. So thank you in advance for doing that. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.